All right, it looks like we're about ready to start. Um, I am so excited to be here. Thank you for taking your Saturday to come and join me to learn about some simple ways to address challenging behavior. So I really appreciate you being here, and I hope that we have a good time together. I thought I'd tell you a little bit about me. I'm an early childhood special education teacher for the Washington County School District. I've been there since 2012. It's been a lot of fun. I'm also a board certified behavior analyst and I'm licensed with the state. And my purposes as a teacher is just to create safe classroom environments where my students have joyful learning experiences. And I also like to help my fellow early childhood teachers feel safe and empowered by sharing behavior strategies that are developmentally appropriate and also easy for them to implement. Let's see if I can. So, our focus today is to consider challenging behavior and to explore proactive and low stress strategies for prevention and responses across situations. So, I just want us to help kind of ease that tension about working with challenging behavior and also give us some strategies that we could use. So, behavior is actually complex and nuanced and contextual. And so, we'll just take a moment to consider before simplifying everything, just consider how complex human behavior actually is. So, a few years ago, I started making
Alexa,
lists.
pause.
I started making a list of everything that I could think of that would affect how a person behaves. And this is the list that I came up with. And as you can see, it's quite a bit. And I'm sure there's more things that I didn't even think of that could be added to this list. So, such things as cognitive abilities, developmental levels, medical concerns, exposure to violence and trauma, family factors, neurobehavioral disorders, et cetera. You can see it's a lot. And so, when we're thinking about behavior, are students only dealing with one of these things? Probably not. And they're probably dealing with multiple things going on at home. And also, there's multiple things happening through the day that they're trying to react to. And behavior also changes across the day and across the school year, even. So there's a whole bunch of um, factors that are going on and variance that is going on. And so I just mainly wanted to show this to illustrate that you guys are rock stars. You have a lot going on in your classrooms. And so I just really appreciate everybody and all that they're doing to help our little ones who are maybe struggling with behavior. So let's just simplify things just a little bit. So to simplify things, we're just going to say that behavior occurs because a person is trying to gain access to something that is pleasing or satisfying or of value to them, or something that is regulating to them, or something that is needed for well being or survival. We often call this positive reinforcement. Or behavior occurs because a person is trying to remove, avoid, or flee something that they find aversive or overwhelming to them. And this could be either perceived or actual. And sometimes we call this negative reinforcement. So let's talk a little bit about the brain and the nervous system and behavior. So our brains are the central hub of everything, and it includes what we perceive and how we interact with our environments. So we're going to talk a little bit about how the brain relates to behavior. So first of all, our brain is pleasure seeking. We like pleasure and social bonding. And some examples, I recently took a class called Neuroscience Meets ABA by Dr. DeLeon, and she had some examples of this. And the examples she mentioned were engaging in preferred activities or sensory experiences, playing with preferred items, or seeking attention or interaction, so that connection seeking. So those are some things that we just like. And our brain is also regulation seeking. The brain is the central part of our nervous the central control to our nervous system. And Dr. DeLeon explains that regulation seeking means trying to calm or organize the nervous system. It's an attempt to restore safety, regain regulation, or establish some sort of connection. And so, some examples that I found that came from a different class, which was by Abby Mix, and it was called Co Regulation in School. She gave some examples of this regulation seeking. And those examples include moving toward preferred items, persons, or sensory experiences, some repetitive behaviors such as rocking or scripting or humming, seeking connections or predictability, or trying to gain control of the environment. So you can see how some of those things could be used to help regain some calm and restore your nervous system. Our brain also seeks well-being and survival. It coordinates our bodily functions for well-being and survival, and it uses sensors, senses, neural pathways, hormones, and the nervous system to do that. So some of the things that we would consider for well-being and survival would be the need for food, water, sleep, going to the bathroom, your temperature regulation, allergies, illnesses, medications, pain or chronic pain, taking care of those things. When you're working with challenging behavior, these are kind of the things you want to think of first. For example, if you have a child who's like overactive like this, maybe they're on some sort of medication that's making them feel that way. Or if you have someone really lethargic or not paying attention, maybe they need some food or a drink of water. So these are the things that we might want to consider first. You'll also want to consider if they have any physical or medical issues, such as maybe they have some issues with their sight or their hearing. So far, this is a lot so far, but we're going to narrow it down, I promise. We also want to talk about how your brain is protection seeking. So, a perceived threat or overwhelm puts our nervous system into a state of dysregulation. And this produces those stress responses that you guys have probably already heard of: fight, fight, freeze, or fawn responses. And when we are reactive in this protection seeking mode, it may cause reactive or defensive behaviors. And signs of emotional overwhelm can include tantrum, shutdown, or rigidity. So, again, Abby Mix had some examples for this that I'd like to share. Examples of protection seeking would be bolting or withdrawing, yelling, hitting, or other high intensity behaviors that are often mistaken for aggression, freezing or shutting down, so immobility or non responding, avoiding demands, people, or overstimulating environments. So basically, these are our stress responses. I love this quote by Mona Delahook. I hope I pronounced her name right. That the most egregious behaviors in preschoolers are non-intentional, they are stress behaviors. So it's those protection seeking behaviors that we're seeing a lot of. And then Dr. DeLeon said, it's not just simply escape, it's not defiance or laziness, it's stress. Stress shows up as fight, flight, freeze, or fawn behaviors. So let's talk about some proactive ways that we can reduce stress. These are just some fun ways that I found works in my classroom. And we're just going to breeze through these kind of quickly and then move on to some other things. The first one is about laughter. And laughter is a great stress reducer. And I would like to tell maybe a little story about a student that I had in one of my classes many years ago. He came from a distressing trauma background. He also had some cognitive delays, and he also had a speech language impairment. So he was not able to communicate very well. So he's frustrated about that. He had some really stressful things going on at home. And when he came into my classroom, he just kind of stood there. He didn't want to participate. Anytime you came near him, he kind of screamed at you and he just kind of froze. And so at the time, this is back when I was becoming a BCBA. And when you do that, you need a supervisor that you is kind of monitoring what you're doing. And I told my supervisor, wow, I just don't know what to do with this. I've tried everything to try and help this student and help him feel comfortable in class. And she told me, oh, this is rather easy. And I was like, what is easy about this? And she said, well, just get him laughing. I said, really, it's that simple. Get him laughing. She goes, try it. Just try it and see what happens. And so I spent the next couple of days trying to see what would make him laugh. I pulled out toys that I thought he would think is fun. I pulled out different things and nothing was working. And then one day I accidentally did something. I think I knocked something over or something and he started laughing. And so I started laughing with him and I just kind of did it over again and just trying to see if that would continue it. And after that, not a problem. He followed me everywhere. I was like the Pied Piper. He would just go with me around the room and do all the activities. And eventually I was able to get him involved with a friend. And it was just really exciting to see that laughter really could help him bond with me and also help relieve his stress about being in the classroom. Movement is also a great stress reducer. It gives us those feel good endorphins. And so adding movement to your schedule throughout the day is a great way to help kind of reduce the stress in the environment. Creating, such as art, music, writing, acting, may also be a stress reducer. So you might want to consider adding some of that to your activities. Group social bonding. Remember, we talked about how the brain loves social bonding. So using music and movement activities that you do together, such as ring around the rosies or drumming together or marching or dancing or playing tag, those kind of things that help encourage that social bonding. I'm a big fan of circle dances where you hold hands and you actually are doing things together. And that's a fun way. I have this little video and I'm not sure if it's going to, I'm going to try and pull it up because I just really enjoy this video. It's a group, it's an orchestra, and they are playing the song Proud Mary. And at first they're playing it really slow and then they go really fast. And I think it's a fun way to think about energy levels in our classroom. So I'm going to see if maybe I can I'm going to stop sharing for a second and then try to share that screen instead. Hold on one second and try this. Share, try this. Okay. All right. I'm trying to see if I can get this for my, I have this toolbar in the way that I can't get to the screen. Hold on one second. Thank you. There we go. All right. Hopefully you're able to see this. If not, hearing it will. Okay, great. Thank you, Chelsea. So I'm going to open this. Okay, so this first part, you'll just see everybody is being like relaxed while they're playing. Let me see if I can get this. Okay, so you can kind of get the vibe. It's real mellow. Everything's happy, relaxed. Everybody's engaged, just grooving out. I'm going to forward it so we don't have to watch the whole thing. Let's get to, again, they're still got that happy, relaxed, we're hanging out. And then about right here, they changed their speed. Hold on. Here we go. Okay, right here, friends, they're gonna pick it up. Okay, so now we've got some energy, right? So you can definitely tell the difference between the two feelings. I'm going to stop this. Let me get out of this. And we're going to stop sharing that. The main thing I wanted to show, I've been thinking about that video a lot. in that in how it relates to my classroom. So like there's a definite ebb and flow throughout the day. We don't want to be calm all the time. Sometimes we need to get our blood pumping, sometimes we need to calm things down. And so just paying attention to the energy levels of your classroom can really help with challenging behavior. Finding motivation. Um, I love this quote, not to be a curiosity killer. I find that if we make our activities engaging and make sure that they're developmentally appropriate and we're adding things where kids can explore and be curious, that often that will take care of some challenging behavior as well. Let me see if I can get here. And just making school a joyful place to be. Basically, what we're talking about through this whole presentation is making the child feel seen, heard, valued, and understood. So this is an example of a simple way to understand and teach those stress responses. I know that there's other ways, like some people use like the red and the yellow and the green stop chart. So this is just another way as well to think about it that is kid friendly. It's talking about the owl brain and the watchdog brain and then the possum brain. And so there's a link there if you'd like to learn more about that. So let's talk about if things are really problem behavior. So sometimes challenging behavior is labeled challenging, but is actually developmentally typical. And knowing this, that it's something might be developmentally typical can help us remain calm when those stressful situations start. Um, and so let's talk about some developmentally typical behavior. So for our preschoolers, I have a whole list of different things that are developmentally typical. Um, it's normal for them to feel overwhelmed. It's normal for them to generalize their experiences by seeing the world in black and white. It's normal for them to say no, ignore instructions, or refuse to listen. They often forget the expectations, repeatedly forgetting. Um, they handle being overwhelmed in ways that we may not find desirable and might consider inappropriate. They need connection and emotional attunement from caregivers. They're not able to usually say how they feel or self-regulate. They have difficulty perceiving and or understanding the perspective of others. They struggle with empathy. They test boundaries. They start to experiment with lying or exaggeration. They assert their ownership and want more control. They have difficulty sharing. I'm sure we know about that. Um, and sometimes they'll exclude other people from play. They believe that everything belongs to them, and they sometimes will use non-oral ways to communicate their wants or needs, or something that they don't like. Sometimes they don't know an appropriate way to interplay with their fellow students, and they definitely need lots and lots of movement, and they enjoy building things up and knocking things down repeatedly. So these are typical behaviors for the ages that we work with, and just knowing that can help us as we're approaching situations, just to remain calm and um, and that we can remember that a lot of behavior happens reactively. They're not forethinking or planning what's going on. So let's move on. So one of the things to consider first, I like the word halt. Um, the halt method. The first one is for hungry. So a way to help solve that obviously is to give them a snack. Another thing that's not mentioned on the halt that I would also consider is thirsty. I found that out by accident a few years ago. I offered a child a drink, just gave him a drink, and he drank like 5 cups of water. And it like took care of the situation right away. And it never occurred to me that he might be thirsty. So think about hungry and thirsty. If they're angry, maybe think about helping them take a break or doing some breathing, getting some fresh air or moving their body. If they're feeling lonely, have them maybe interact with a peer, invite a peer over to play with them, do some of that group social bonding that we had talked about, and just allow time throughout your day that the kids can interact with each other. And if they're feeling tired, obviously, maybe allow them to take a nap or a rest, have them do quiet activities or listen to some soft music. So these are the first things I think about when I'm thinking about challenging behavior. Okay, let's talk about the developmental needs of boys. I love working with boys. For the past few years, I've had classes that are just solely boys, and it's been a lot of fun. I have learned a lot from them, and I've learned how to become a better teacher. Um, so boys are often referred to special education more often than girls. But what if in some instances, in some cases, so not all obviously, educators just might be misunderstanding how boys learn and what their needs are. So let's take a few moments to think about some of the things that boys need in general. So in general, boys are more physically active than girls, and they naturally engage in rough and tumble play, especially our preschoolers. They're good at building with blocks and they have a predisposition towards building tasks. They are more likely to let their anger show when they feel frustrated. They lag behind girls in the development of social skills, self regulation ability, and fine motor skills. And they're more likely to take risks. In fact, the pleasure center of their brain actually lights up when they're taking risks. Genes and hormones may affect how their brains react to human speech, and they're more likely to be late talkers and may use some limited vocabularies. Um, they respond best in general, of course, to visuals, especially moving and dynamic images. And due to factors like their size and muscle mass and metabolism rates, they tend to need to eat more and eat more often than girls. And that's one fun thing I've discovered is that my little boys in my class just like to eat and eat and eat. It feels like they just never stop. So that's been really fun to see or to understand that. So let's talk about some strategies. So you will have access to these slides. So don't, um, we'll just kind of go through these really quickly. So you can refer back to the slides whenever you want. So there are many strategies to work with boys, and these are just a few. And if you'd like more, I have in the references section, I have links to different things that offer strategies. So increasing movement, again, some safe rough and tumble play, such as physical contact without aggression, lots of blocks and building activities, some safe risk taking, like maybe they could build a fort or you could let the children get messy. They love role playing and team activities, use music to teach concepts, give meaningful responsibilities to help peers and teachers. And this is one that I've seen helps quite a bit. I'll be like, hey, can you take this over to the rug for me? And they just love to help. These boys just love being helpers. Use visuals and dynamic moving pictures. Be patient with teaching social skills. Remember, because they lag behind in social skills. Help support emotion, understanding, and regulation. Add some fine motor activities so they can start developing those fine motor skills, and pay attention to visual and auditory processing. So I love this quote. It's from a book that came out years ago. It was called How the Brain Affects Behavior. And it was talking about boys, and it said, use movement in a lesson so that it not only serves as an instructional tool, but control undesirable behavior as well. Most boys move at inappropriate times in the classroom because everything in their mind and body is shouting, you have to move right now. And so just adding movement can also be helpful. So I have this really fun ABC song, and I think I'm going to skip it for now, just due to time. But it's really fun. It's very in my class of boys. The first time I played it, they all kind of looked at it. The second time I did it, they were so excited. They were just moving their bodies because it's a lot of jumping and moving your arms like this and just having a great time. And if you're doing it along with them, then I guarantee it's a fun time. And don't worry, you're going to look silly and everybody's going to laugh and it's just going to be fun. So let's talk about a replacement behavior. So replacement behaviors are the behaviors you want to see happen instead of what is happening. Um, so one of the first things I want to talk about is setting boundaries and determining negotiables. Now, this is just something that I've found works in my own classroom. And so just you can work out however you feel it works for you as well. So I have firm boundaries, and those boundaries are health and safety for both students and staff. So, for example, washing your hands before and after eating, wiping our nose with a tissue, holding hands when we're crossing the street, no climbing on the furniture, no hitting, kicking, biting, etc. Those are health and safety issues, and those are the firm boundaries where those things need to be taken care of. And next, I have expectations with choices. So that means basically having your rules, your routines, your expectations, but allowing choice within those. For example, if you have the rule that everybody needs to sit at the rug for circle time, then consider allowing the children to choose how they sit and where they would like to sit. For example, maybe they could sit on their knees with their legs out in front, crisscross, or the legs folded to the side. So allow some choice within those expectations. And then everything else to me is negotiable because I have found that less control equals better results. So, for example, if we're doing an activity and I'm handing out the markers or crayons or whatever, and I hand a child a crayon that's blue, and the child says, "No, I wanted the red one." We're like, "Oh, okay, I didn't know that. Here you go, you can have the red one." So he doesn't have to have the one that I'm handing out. So I try to let the children have say in as much as they can. So from day one, the skills that you really want to focus on teaching is that communication skills, problem solving skills, and social skills. Proactively teaching these means that when you're in the moment, you can just remind them of those what they're learning. So I really like this format. When thinking about replacement skills, think about how the child can get their needs met and help them meet those needs. So, in the moment, you're seeing something that's happening and you're trying to figure out what's the child trying to communicate or what need is he trying to get met, he or she, and you help the child get that need met. It's a great way to teach those social skills in the moment and communication skills in the moment. And so, I like this idea of thinking of it as a missed opportunity. So the child missed the opportunity to get their needs and wants met appropriately. So you're just going to help them do that. So, for example, a missed opportunity. So the child wanted to get a truck and he's screaming to get the truck. So first thing you want to do is validate their feelings. Oh, it looks like you wanted the truck. And then you model what to do or say instead. So you're trying to give that replacement behavior. So in this case, oh, sounds like I want truck. And so then you give them an opportunity to try, and maybe they say want truck, and you reinforce that. That's it. Here's the truck. So you're trying to teach them the most appropriate thing that they need to do. So, for example, here's another example. Say you're at circle time and the child is yelling out, teacher, 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 trying to get your attention. You can remind them, oh, hey, remember, we need to raise our hand. And then when they get their hand raised, oh, that's raising your hand. What do you need? So, excuse me, you have taught them in the moment or reminded them in the moment what they need to do. I apologize. I swallowed wrong while I was talking. One second, I'm prepared. I've got a cough drop. So let's look at one of these. So if we were in a group together, I would do this together as a group and have you generate ideas. And this might be a fun thing to do with your whoever you're working with in your classroom, whether it's a paraeducator, teacher's assistant or whatever, maybe think about the current behaviors that are happening and what you want the replacement behavior to be and how you're going to remind them of what that is. So let's look at another one. So let's say a student is grabbing onto another student, and the reason is they're trying to get that student's attention, and you happen to see that. So in the moment, you can maybe remind them, hey, if you want his attention, tap him on the shoulder. That's the replacement behavior, and that's what you want to have them practicing in the moment. Or let's say the child needs some help. Maybe he's upset about that he can't do an activity, so he goes under the table so he doesn't have to do the activity. Maybe you could validate their feelings. Hey, it looks like you feel frustrated. You can ask me for help. You can say, help, please. And have them say that. And then oh, I'm so happy to help you. Come on, let's do it together. So again, you're just thinking, what is that replacement behavior that you want to have happened that meets the child's need and to help them get that need met. But you can also ask, so for example, one time I was doing circle time and this child kept leaving circle time. And so finally afterwards I said, hey, I noticed that you're leaving circle time a lot. What's going on? Why are you leaving? And you got to be prepared for the answer, because the answer I got was that I was too boring. So and that taught me. I said to the child, well, what can we do so circle time's not boring? And he told me jumping. So I said, okay, let's go back to the rug and let's do some jumping. So we all did some jumping. But so you can always ask, be careful with that. Some children can explain, especially if it's in the moment and they're feeling frustrated, they can't explain how they feel. I can't explain sometimes when I'm upset how I feel in the moment. So you can also remember that it's normal for kids this age to just forget what you told them like 2 seconds ago. So just remind them, hey, Annie, remember it's time to line up right now. You can do that verbally, or you can do that with a picture. And you can also use the positive guidance strategies and some active listening. So let's talk a little bit about self-regulation and co-regulation, because self-regulation is so hard. Self-regulation requires forethought and monitoring and control and some self-reflection. And these are all skills that even adults have a hard time doing. And other skills it requires is executive functioning skills and language skills. And what we know about from the research about self-regulation is that it doesn't start to emerge until the ages between the ages of 3.5 and 7 years old. And it depends on the individual at what point they start learning those. And even then, children need support to self-regulate. And also remember that boys start a little bit later than girls with the self-regulation. So self-regulation is hard. And so let's talk a little bit about co-regulation. I'm a big fan of co-regulation. Co-regulation is sharing our calm, and it's modeling, and it's encouraging and coaching. It's practicing those self-regulation skills together with support and guidance. So we are, in essence, helping the child to identify and express how they feel and express what they want or need. And so we never really stop needing co-regulation, even in adulthood. So I'll give you a personal example. Let me see if I have time to do that. Yeah. I'll give you a personal example. One time I was really upset about something that happened at work. I can't even remember what it was now, but I remember driving home. I turned on the music to try and calm down. I did my deep breathing. I called my mom on the phone while I was driving. I was trying to do everything I could to calm myself down, but I still got home and I was kind of mad. So I walk in the door and my husband greets me. Hi, honey, and I said, don't talk to me right now. I just need a few minutes to myself and then I'll be ready. And he goes, oh, okay. So he backed off a little bit. So I go in the kitchen. I thought, well, I'm just gonna make dinner. And I'm kind of, putting things down really hard on the counter. And I'm just, my husband could tell I'm not happy. So he tried to approach me again. I said, no, I just need time to myself. Leave me alone. And but I obviously was still in this kind of heightened state that I wasn't coming down from. So with while I'm doing all this, he goes over and he knows my favorite thing's hot chocolate. So he went and got some milk, put it in a thing, put it in the microwave, stir in some hot chocolate, came over to me and said, "Hey, honey, come on over. Let's sit you down here." He sat me on the couch. He handed me the hot chocolate. He said, I'll just be over here. You can take some time. Don't worry about anything. And it really just took me out of that. And I was able just to calm down and be okay. And then he came over and talked to me about it. And we worked through a couple of things. So I just wanted to point that out because as an adult, it's very hard to self regulate. And so, can you imagine being only 3 years on the planet and having those skills? It's really hard. So, co regulation is just that ability to come in, validate their feelings, help them calm down, and practice those skills that they need to learn. So, this is an activity that if we were in a live together, that I would probably put us in little groups to do. But I want to explain this framework. So this framework is what I'm calling the co-regulation framework. That's not an official title. It's just what I've called it. And it's a combination of several different frameworks that I've seen through the years. They're all relatively saying the same things, meaning that you calm yourself first and then you validate feelings and give some empathy and label the emotions. And so I just kind of put it together in a way that works for me. So the framework is you calm yourself first, you say what you see or what you've heard, you label the emotion or you give empathy, you add a because, you encourage persistence, you give an option or a prompt, so some different strategies you can use there, and then you reinforce those things. So the it looks like a lot. And in the moment, you may not be able to get to all these things. Um, so be flexible when you're trying to do something like this. And I have some examples of what that looks like. And sometimes you'll start it and a child will change the direction of what's happening. So again, be flexible. For example, you might calm yourself, you might go over and say what you've seen. Wow, you threw that truck. It seems like you feel really sad about this or you're unhappy. And the child will say, I'm not unhappy. I'm mad. He took my car, you know? And so all of a sudden, then you can go back into that active listening and guidance mode where you can say, oh, he did take the car. My goodness. Well, what should we do about that? What do you think we should do? And then you can have maybe some solutions on a chart that they can pick through or something like that. So again, be flexible with this. This is just like a general framework to help get the ball going. You'll also see that I have some strategies at the bottom. So each one of these slides have a different strategy. And these are just strategies that I have found that works really well with, especially with paras, just to have in their toolbox. Obviously, there's a whole bunch of other strategies. Maybe you have a favorite strategy you would like to use. There's just a lot out there. These are just ones that I have found that find easy to implement. When you're picking out a strategy that you want to use, make sure that it, as you all know, is just a reminder that the strategy you're picking is evidence-based, it's developmentally appropriate for the children that we use. And also what I like to think about when I'm picking a strategy, and this is going to sound maybe kind of strange, but I liked many years ago, I heard Dr. Hanley say, consider televisibility. I think that's a made up word he made up. But basically, the idea is that anything you're doing, would it be okay to be televised on television? And so that just helps you keep kind of in that state where you don't go too far, right? And you're also considering, well, if the parent was standing right here, would they want me to be using this strategy with the child? So those are things to think about when you're picking out strategies to use, at least what I think about. So let's look at this example. So I have a bunch of examples here, And so what you can do, or what I have done, and you're welcome to try if you'd like, um, is I like to print these out and then do like role playing and practice with my staff. And so what that would look like is maybe somebody would draw one out and they would name the situation, and then we would practice. They would practice what it says in yellow um, on there, and then we would just role play. One person being the kid, one person being the teacher, and then we flip it. And we just practice. We'd see what was working. We'd discuss as a team: is this going to work with this child? That kind of thing. So here's an example. I'm going to try and see if I can hide this so I can see my, okay. So here's an example of child screaming and throwing items during a writing activity. So the very first thing you do in all cases is to take a deep breath, calm yourself. Um, you can breathe and say to yourself, this child just needs my calm right now. And then you say what you see or hear. So, oh, you threw the pencils. And then you would label the emotion and empathize. You're mad. I get it. And then you'd add it because writing can be hard. And then you try to encourage persistence because we want kids to be able to see that they're resilient and that they can do things. So try to encourage them to see if they could do a little bit more without help before you jump in and give help. So I'm here for you. I can help you if you need it. See if they'll start writing on their own. If they don't, then you can say, well, start by drawing a line down with touch pull down like this. Oh, you've got it. Now you go touch push over like this. And then you keep going that way. So in this case, the strategy we're using is breaking down the task into smaller steps and modeling how to do it. So let's look at another one. Oh, well, this, I put this slide maybe out of order, but this is just saying, use this opportunity to practice these scenarios because I personally have found that practicing and role playing before you're actually in the moment is really helpful so that maybe you're in the moment and something's triggered you and you feel yourself rising, but you've got this kind of muscle memory. You've already practiced it. You calm down, you just do what you've practiced. Okay, so here's some more examples. Okay, that's the one we just went over, the break down the task into smaller steps. Okay, we did have enough time. All right, so this one, the child throws a toy because he wanted a turn. So again, it's the same kind of framework. I'm not gonna say the top orange part. I'm only gonna say the yellow part. And in this case, we're gonna redirect to a replacement behavior. So I'm gonna say, I've got this. I see you threw the toys. You seem angry. I understand. You wanted a turn with the truck. It's okay to feel angry, but it's not okay to throw the toys. Instead, we can ask for a turn. It sounds like, can I have a turn? And then they ask for a turn. You asked for a turn and got a turn, and that was hard, but you did it. Good job. You should feel so proud. So in this case, the redirection was to that replacement behavior. We want them to say, can I have a turn? And so that was what we were trying to prompt them to say. In this example, the child starts screaming when excused to go to the tables. And I wondered if anybody would like to volunteer to read the yellow part themselves, like try it out. Would anybody be willing to do that? If not, that's, oh yeah, thank you. Thank you for jumping in. Go
You said
ahead.
the yellow part, right?
Yeah, just the yellow part, yeah.
Breathe and say to yourself, easy peasy, say, I hear you. I get it. You don't want to get to go to teacher table, but the schedule says it's time to go to teacher table. See? Offer an option of what is happening at the table, something of interest to the child. At teacher table, we get to use glitter. I wonder what color glitter you want. Let's go see. Nice coming to the table. Which color would you like to use?
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. So this is one of my favorite things. It takes away any power struggles is blaming the schedule or the clock. So Oh, but see, the schedule says we have to do this. So if you already taught the children that at school we follow the schedule, then when you get to um, a moment that's kind of difficult, you can say, "Oh, but see, the schedule says we need to do this. Let's go look at the schedule. Let's see what it says. Um, see, it says we have to go do this, but look, they're doing this." You read, offer them a choice. Like in this case, what kind of glitter do you want to use? Um, so just blaming the schedule, the clock is a simple way to reduce that control power struggle going on. This one, a child yells no because she doesn't want to go to a rug activity. And this one is to offer a choice or a break. Could I have someone else be willing to read the yellow part?
I'll read it, Tanya.
Thank you.
So breathe and say to self, it's all good. Say, you said no in a loud voice. That tells me you're mad. I get it. You wanted more time to play with dolls. All our friends are going to the rug for some fun. Let's go join them. Come on. Do you want to crawl or jump to the rug? And then thanks for coming to the rug.
Thank you. Appreciate you reading that. And again, it seems like a lot of verbiage, and sometimes in the moment you might not get to all of that. But basically, just giving that empathy and saying, "Oh, I get it. You're so mad about this. I get it. I would want to play too, but we need to go to the rug. Do you want to do this or do that?" That kind of thing. So offering choices kind of helps redirect them away from maybe how they're feeling in that moment. This one is child runs away from circle time. And so I will go ahead and do this one. Again, just breathe and say to yourself, "No problem, I've got this," right? "I've got it." And then you say what you see or hear. So, "You ran away from circle. I get it. You might need a break. You can have a break, but you should ask first. Let's go ask teacher." And then direct them to ask the teacher for a break. "Nice asking. Let's go take a break now." So, again, this is a way to teach them what they should be doing instead of just running away from circle. Like, "Oh yeah, you can have a break. It's okay, but you need to maybe ask the teacher first. So let's go do that." And then by practicing these things ahead of time with your staff and all the staff being kind of on board with the strategies, then the teacher would know that if he's coming to ask for a break, then yes, of course he can go get a break. You kind of worked this out ahead of time. And again, this framework is really easy to individualize for different students. This one would be child running away from a table activity. All right, so this one again is offering a choice or a break. So you're gonna say, "No problem. Hey, you ran away from the table. I get it. You might need a break. You can have a break. Let's look at our break choices. Do you want to take a break at the cozy corner or the library?" So maybe you have some pictures or um, of different places, areas they could go to take a break, or different things they could do, like deep breathing or other relaxing things, maybe playing in the sandbox. So you have like a little choice board in this case. Good choice. Let's go to the blank for break. So let's go over here to the library for a break. And you walk them over. This one, the child is escalating because they want something another child wants, which we know is typical for this age. So you're going to calm yourself first. "I've got this. Ooh, your face is scrunched up like this. It tells me you're upset. It looks like you want the toy that Johnny's playing with. That's a problem. Don't worry, I think we can solve this problem. Let's look at our choices together and pick what you'd like to try." Great choice. Let's try it. So I have a real life experience with this one. I worded it a little bit differently, but a little boy was having some difficulty, and so I said, "Oh, hey, let's choose what we want to do in this situation." I had a little choice board. One of them was to ask for a turn or wait for a turn or get a timer for a turn, those kind of things. And so he picked the one that said ask for a turn. He went over to his friend and said, "I want to ask for a turn." And the little boy said, "No." So ideally, it would have been the little boy said, "Yeah, sure, here you go," and then he would have learned that asking for a turn is a great thing. But the little boy said no. So that was a great opportunity to problem solve because that was another problem. I said, "Oh, that's a problem. Now, still wants to play with that. I wonder what else we could do. Could we go play somewhere else, or do you want to wait for your turn?" So again, it was a chance to practice what needed to be done, and just an opportunity for us to problem solve together. This one is a child runs off from an activity. This is a process called acknowledge, wait, and see. And this is a good strategy for when a child needs space, like maybe they don't want you near them, or or if offering them a choice is going to continue to escalate things, or maybe the teacher just needs to keep the class moving. So it's a little bit different framework. You can see it's a little bit shorter. So you just relax yourself. Oh, easy peasy. And then you say, I see you're not ready yet. I'm going to give you some time. I'll be back to check on you in a few minutes. And then you go do your thing, you check back and see if they're ready to join you. If they're not, you say, okay, I'll give you some more time. I'll be back in a few minutes. And then you might also do some reflective listening. Maybe the child might be willing to talk at that point or whatever. But you're just kind of letting know, okay, you can have your space. I'm going to come back and check on you. You can join us at any time. Okay, so I think for the sake of time, I will. Let me see where I'm at. Okay, we'll just do one more of these. This is the child runs off from the table to go to a different toy or activity. You're just gonna say, "Oh, it's all good." And then you say to the child, "You ran off. I understand. You want to play with that truck. You can play with the truck, but we need to be at the table right now. Would you like to leave it here or take it with us to the table?" So you're giving them a choice. I'm sorry, but you're also opting to allow them to bring it to the table. And I have found that by allowing the children to bring the toys to the table, often they'll just forget about it within a couple minutes because they see what's going on at the table. They're having so much fun. The other kids are having fun, and then they want to join in. And so it's okay, in my opinion, to let them bring those items with them to the table or the rug because pretty soon they're just like engaged in the activity, especially if you have a developmentally appropriate engaging activity. Um, okay, this is for overwhelm. So this is when things have gone into that state where the amygdala has taken over and they have just escalated to the highest point. And so this is the strategy here is to calm yourself, change the way you're thinking because you might be getting triggered by this at this point. You're going to give off some safety signals. You're going to change whatever you can, give an empathetic statement and a supportive statement, and then just wait. And then after waiting, you're going to kind of offer little mini bids to try and see if the child's ready to, if they're calm enough to interact with you. You're going to offer the child an out, allow some time for the child to process, and then slowly go verbal again and just kind of lower the demands. So what that looks like, let's just talk about that real quick. So you'll take a deep breath to yourself and you say, "Ooh, I've got this." And then you're going to think to yourself, "This child needs my calm right now." And just saying that to yourself can help bring your own, maybe you're starting to get triggered or you're starting to get emotional about it, can help bring that down. Then you kind of relax your body and your face. You stay close, but not too close. You lower your body so that you're not towering over them or being a threatening presence. You're lowering your body. You're slowing down your breathing. You can remove any dangerous objects or anything visual clutter that's going on. And then you give that empathetic statement. "I see you're feeling really upset right now. I see you're feeling sad. I see you're really mad right now." Anything like that. Or, "I hear you saying that you're mad." Then you give that supportive statement. "I hear if you need me." And then you start to co-regulate. You kind of sit a little away from them, not close, but not too close. And you just start breathing. Slow down your own breath, kind of do some deep breathing, just yourself, not making the child do it. Because science has shown that as humans, we kind of, our breathing will regulate with whoever we're with. So just start slowing your own breath, might help calm the child down. Then you just be silent, you breathe. Maybe you offer a mini bid by trying to move a little bit closer or offering the child something to hold. And then you try to offer the child an out. So offer a coping choice such as, would you like help with that? Or would you like to do it yourself? Or would you like a drink of water? Or a distraction choice like, oh, I see your nose is running. Would you like to know, wipe your nose? And if the child doesn't respond to these mini bids, just say, it's okay. I'll wait. I'm here for you. And then just continue breathing and just wait. Um, you just want to start slowly going verbal again because you don't want to overwhelm them with a whole bunch of talking. Um, and then just keep in mind that if a child is at this really high intensity sense of overwhelm, they might be exhausted after that. And so you might want to, after this is over, just um, lower your demands and just keep things calm for a little while. And then later on, reflect about what happened and maybe what had triggered that and what we could do to mitigate the triggers beforehand. So these are some free resources. I love sharing resources. So here's a ton of my favorite resources on co-regulation, different social skills that we can be problem solvers. Toolkit has like visuals for helping children problem solve, those kind of things. And then these are some references that I have for all of the stuff that we've talked about today. And I just want to thank you for being with me today. And I hope that you found this helpful. And I hope that you have enjoyed what you've learned. We have like maybe 3 minutes left. I don't know if there was anything in the chat. Let me see. I can open that. Oh, I don't know. I think I lost it.
So
Oh,
far,
wait.
what I can see, someone asked about slides, and someone else responded that they're available in Zoom at the bottom of the screen. And
Perfect.
then someone also shared some videos that they do every day. And then
Oh, that's
last are
awesome.
just a few thank yous.
That is awesome. I will love to. I love resources from other people. So I can't wait to watch that thing that Amy put in there about doing something every other day. Dr. Jean Alfredy. Awesome. Thank you so much for that. Does anybody else have any comments or suggestions of things that they have found that works for them or have found enjoyable in their classroom? If not, that's okay. I really appreciate everyone being here and I want to thank you for coming and I hope that you have a great rest of your day.